I started my night shifts at the hospital a few weeks ago. I was still getting used to the late hours. The place felt eerie when everyone left. The dull white walls glowed under the dim lights. I didn't think much of it at first, but I remember how that first night stuck with me. I was walking down the empty hallway when I heard a faint cry. I stopped and listened, my heart racing. I looked at one of the patient rooms, and the noise suddenly stopped. I thought maybe I was just tired, but a chill ran up my spine. I knocked on the door anyway. It felt like time froze. When I opened it, the room was empty. The bed was perfectly made. The monitors were silent. As my shifts continued, the cries stopped, but things got stranger. One night, I passed the nurse's station and smelled lavender. It wasn't there before. I looked around, confused. I couldn't see anyone. The scent was sweet and comforting, but it vanished too fast. I thought I was just imagining things. Another night, I noticed shadows flickering in my peripheral vision. I turned my head, and nothing was there. I chuckled nervously, but it felt like the hospital was alive and watching me. I wondered if I was working too hard. It's easy to lose your mind during those long hours. That's what I kept telling myself. Then one evening, I found a dusty old journal in the waiting area. It didn't belong there, but I picked it up. The handwriting was shaky, full of wild tales about missing patients and strange sounds echoing through the night. As I read, a heaviness settled in my chest. I went to the break room for coffee. I felt eyes on me. The hairs on the back of my neck stood up. I turned around, but the room was empty. Just the humming fridge and flickering lights. My heart raced. I tried to shake it off. Then, it hit me I had never really seen patients after midnight. Sure, I could check their charts, but I never followed up after a certain hour. Were they really there? I needed answers, but a small voice in my head cautioned me that I might not like what I found. As I walked back to my station, I noticed something move in the shadows. I blinked, and it was gone. I wanted to laugh it off, but terror gripped me. I felt cold all of a sudden. Then the lights flickered, and a voice whispered in the dark, "Don't leave yet, Emily." I froze. I didn't know if I was hearing things. Was my mind playing tricks on me? Or was I slowly becoming part of the night? I stood there, paralyzed. I felt something shift in the air around me. I glanced over my shoulder, expecting to see someone there, but it was just darkness. My heart pounded. What was happening to me? I never wanted to work nights again. I took a shaky breath, trying to gather my thoughts. I knew I had to keep moving. Standing there, I felt like a target, prey in the hospital's cold embrace. I walked to my station, the familiar clutter of charts and papers bringing some comfort, but it didn't last. As I tried to focus on my tasks, my mind raced. The journal's tales echoed in my head. What if all the missing patients were a warning? The thought made my skin crawl. I opened the journal again, scanning the pages for anything I might have missed. Suddenly, a loud bang echoed down the hallway. My heart leaped into my throat. I stepped closer to the door, straining to hear. It sounded like it came from the direction of the supply room. I hesitated. Should I go investigate? Every muscle in my body screamed for me to stay put, yet curiosity pulled me toward the sound. I walked down the dim corridor, my footsteps muffled against the linoleum. I reached the supply room, the creepy atmosphere thick with uncertainty. I pushed the door open. The room was cluttered with boxes, a single overhead light flickering erratically. Then I saw it. A momentary flash of movement behind a stack of boxes. I squinted, my heart racing, and called out, "Hello." No answer. Just silence. I took a step forward. That's when I noticed the door wasn't fully closed. A thin stream of light peeked through the crack. I approached it cautiously, feeling the cold air slip through the gap. The firm whisper returned, "Don't leave yet." My breathing quickened. I didn't want to look, but something compelled me to do it. I pushed the door open wider. The outside hallway looked normal, no one there, but a chill ran down my back. I felt the urge to touch something solid to ground myself. I reached for the wall, but then a shadow darted past the edge of the doorway, quick and fleeting. I whipped my head back. "Who's there?" Panic bubbled inside me, but no one replied. And then, the lights flickered again, and the air grew heavy, electric with tension. I turned my head slightly but saw only darkness beyond the doorway. Suddenly, from deep within the shadows, I saw a faint outline of a figure. The corners of my vision darkened. I couldn't breathe. I wanted to run, but my legs felt like concrete. The figure stepped forward, and I caught a glimpse of a sad, haunted face. That's when I saw it, an old ID badge hanging from a frayed lanyard. It was slung around the figure's neck, swinging slightly as they moved. I squinted, my heart racing even faster. It read, "Nurse Clara." But Clara had been missing for years. Just as I was about to call out, the figure melted back into the shadows, leaving an empty silence in its wake. My blood turned to ice. I needed to know more, but the fear swelled inside me like a tidal wave. I stumbled back, the door slamming shut behind me. My pulse thundered in my ears. I didn't understand what I'd just seen, but I knew one thing for sure: whatever was happening in that hospital at night was far from over. I stood frozen for what felt like an eternity, my breath shallow and quick. The empty hallway loomed in front of me, and I could still see the specter of Clara drifting among the shadows. Was it just my imagination? A trick of the light? No, I could still see the badge, could still feel the chill of her presence. I glanced down at the journal in my hands. The pages felt damp and out of place, like they were warning me not to forget Clara or the others who had vanished. With every tick of the clock echoing in the near silence, my determination eroded away, replaced with dread. I needed to speak to someone. Panic twisted my stomach, but I forced myself to move. I walked quickly back to the nurse's station, but the room felt emptier than before. Where were my colleagues? I searched for familiar faces, but the station sat abandoned, the low hum of machinery only reminding me of my isolation. Then I noticed the lights flickering again. That wasn't normal. I gripped the counter for support but was drawn to the nearest doorway. Beyond it lay the break room, and it should have been bustling with tired nurses rejuvenating with coffee and chatter. Instead, I was met with shadows and silence. I walked in hesitantly. The coffee pot gurgled ominously, but no one was there. My heart raced as I scanned the room. It felt off, like I had crossed into a different world. One where missing patients were just the tip of the iceberg. Just as I was about to turn back, I noticed something on the table, a newspaper clipping. I approached the table. The article was yellowed and wrinkled, the headline screamed, "Nurse Clara still missing after 7 years." My heart dropped. There was a photo of her. She looked just as I remembered, but there was something else written in the margin. Someone had jotted down a series of names. Patients, all born from that night she disappeared. As I read through the names, a cold sweat broke out on my brow. They matched the names in my own records. I felt a strange reverberation in my bones. Was I part of something bigger? Something planned? Suddenly, a crash echoed from the hallway. It sounded like it came from the supply room again. My heart raced, I couldn't ignore it. Whatever was happening, I had to confront it. With every ounce of courage I could muster, I stepped back into the dim corridor. The eerie tension gripped me tighter, but I couldn't turn back now. I reached the door of the supply room, pushing it open slightly. My breath caught again as I peered into the darkness. Shadows danced, and then I saw it, a doctor's coat hanging from the edge of the supply rack, swaying as if someone had just left it there. I stepped inside, the door creaking ominously behind me. That's when I noticed something on the floor, a small, bloody bandage. My stomach twisted. This wasn't just about Clara anymore. I felt the walls closing in on me. I needed to get out. Before I could move, dark whispers surrounded me, growing louder. "Don't leave yet." I gasped. I wasn't alone. Tremors of fear shot through me as I turned to run, knowing that whatever was lurking in the shadows had its sights set on me. I bolted from the supply room, my heart pounding. I needed to escape those suffocating shadows, the whispers that clawed at my sanity. I darted through the hall, desperate to find someone. Anyone. The fluorescent lights flickered overhead, casting unsettling shadows that seemed to reach for me. I glanced over my shoulder, half expecting to see a figure creeping behind me. What was happening? Why was the hospital so empty? As I rounded a corner, I spotted a light seeping from the small meeting room. I tiptoed closer, hoping to find a fellow nurse or even the head doctor. Maybe someone could explain what was going on. I pushed the door open slowly. The room was filled with an eerie brightness, but it was empty. The chairs sat neatly around the table, untouched. I noticed a screen flickering on the wall. A security camera feed was playing, showing grainy footage of the hallways. My heart sank as I recognized the corridor I just fled. In the corner of the screen, a figure moved. I squinted at the video. There she was, Clara's ghostly silhouette drifting down the hallway. She paused, looking directly into the camera as the video pixelated. It felt like she was watching me. I stumbled back, nearly tripping over a chair. This can't be real, I thought. But the knot in my stomach said otherwise. I stepped closer to the screen, searching for anything that could help me understand. Next to the monitor lay a stack of files. I grabbed one and flipped it open. It was a case file, and as I scanned the pages, a name jumped out, a patient who disappeared the very night Clara went missing. Madison Hale. The file was filled with notes, but all I could focus on was the single line under highlights: "Last seen with Clara, went missing an hour after discharge." I felt sick. This wasn't just about Clara anymore, it was about every patient who disappeared that night. As I closed the file, the screen went dark, and the lights began to flicker more violently. The door slammed shut, sending a jolt through me. I was trapped. My breath quickened. I banged on the door, but it didn't budge. Then I heard the whispers, closer now, almost mocking. "You were chosen." "Chosen?" I shouted, panic consuming me. Chosen for what? In the silence that followed, the lights flickered one last time and then plunged the room into darkness. The whispers swirled around me, an unseen presence circling, and I could feel the air shift. "Who is there?" My voice trembled, but I refused to hide. I had to know the truth. But before I could adjust to the darkness, I heard a soft, familiar voice cutting through the air. "Help me!" My heart dropped as the figure of Clara emerged from the shadows, but her face was different. It was not the gentle nurse I remembered. It was twisted, filled with fear. "You have to help me," she said, her eyes wide. "It's not over yet." My world spun. The walls creaked, the floor felt unsteady, and I realized that whatever she represented, whatever was happening here, was about to unfold in front of me. There was no turning back now. I stared at Clara, my mind racing. She looked distressed, as if whatever trapped her had twisted our memories together. "What do you mean it's not over?" I asked, forcing my voice to remain steady. She glanced around, clearly anxious. "They're watching. You need to listen." Her voice was nearly a whisper now. "Those who went missing, they didn't just vanish. They were taken." I felt a chill run down my spine. Taken? By who? What happened to Madison? Clara's eyes seemed to dart around the room, as if checking for threats. "I can't explain everything. It's too late for me." Her twisted expression haunted me. But you can help them. You can save them. My instinct was to move closer, to comfort her, but fear held me in place. What do I need to do? I pressed. Suddenly, the room jolted as the lights buzzed back to life. Clara's figure flickered, becoming more translucent. I blinked, and then she was gone. I gasped, half expecting to see her figure still standing before me. The air felt heavy, like a weight I couldn't shake off. Now I was alone. Still trapped in the meeting room, I took a deep breath, forcing my racing heart to slow. I turned back to the screen. The empty hallway footage had resumed, but something was different. The grainy video now showed more figures moving, shadows that seemed to pulse with life. I squinted at the screen. I recognized one of the figures. It was Madison, walking slowly toward a doorway I had never noticed before. I felt a pull to that doorway. Whatever was happening, it connected the dots I hadn't understood. The whispers returned, louder now. Find her, find them. I had to get out of this room. I rushed to the door and pushed with all my strength. It creaked open inch by inch, finally giving way. I stumbled into the hallway, my pulse quickened as I stepped back into the eerie fluorescent glow. The hallway was empty, still devoid of life, and yet it felt alive with unspoken stories begging to be uncovered. My mission was clear now. I needed to track down Madison, uncover the truth, and maybe, just maybe, bring Clara the peace she sought. As I moved, the whispers followed, echoing down the hall. You were chosen. You were chosen. But for what? I reached the door where Madison had appeared on the screen. It was old and worn, the paint peeling. I hesitated. What if this was where all the answers lay? What if it was a trap? Before I could think too hard about it, the whispers sharpened, turning into a chorus of frantic cries. Help us! Help us! The urgency propelled me forward. I grabbed the handle and twisted it open. The door creaked on rusty hinges, and as I stepped through, I couldn't shake the feeling that something dark was waiting just beyond this threshold. I could barely see what lay ahead, but the whispers surged with energy. Everyone was counting on me now. As I stepped through the door, a chill enveloped me. It was darker than I expected, the air thick and damp. I squinted, my eyes adjusting to the dimness. The whispers intensified, swirling around me like shadows. Help us! Help us! They cried, echoing off the damp walls. I squinted and moved forward, my heart racing. The space in front of me opened up into a larger room, filled with old furniture covered in dusty sheets. A flickering light struggled to penetrate the shadows, casting uneasy shapes all around. Then I froze. In the corner of the room stood a figure. Dressed in white, it looked eerily familiar. I couldn't make out the details at first, but the way the light danced around it brought back memories. It was Madison, her hair cascading down, a hint of confusion etched on her face. Madison! I called out, my voice trembling. She turned, her eyes wide but blank, as if she were caught between two worlds. Help me, she whispered, but her voice felt distant, strained. What happened? I took a step closer, desperate to bridge the gap between us. The closer I got, the more the air thickened. It felt like I was pushing against something I couldn't see. I can't stay, she murmured, her form glimmering. They won't let me go. What do you mean, they? I asked, panic clawing at my throat. Who took you? She began to fade, her features blurring like a television signal losing reception. You have to be careful. If they see you, if they know you're looking. I didn't understand what she was trying to warn me about. Just then, a sound echoed from behind me, a sharp scrape, like nails on a chalkboard. I spun around, my heart racing. There was another door at the far end of the room, slightly ajar. A wavering light streamed through the crack. I took a step toward it but stopped when I heard a voice, low and guttural. Come closer, join us. I backed away, my instincts screaming at me to flee. I glanced back at Madison, whose face was now a mixture of fear and determination. "Don't go. Please, don't go near them." Before I could respond, the walls shook, and the whispers grew more frantic. "Help us. Help us." The air vibrated with tension, and I felt something scraping at the edges of my perception, clawing its way toward the surface. Madison's face became clearer for a brief moment. "Remember, you were chosen. Only you can break the cycle." With that, she vanished completely, swallowed by the darkness around me. I stood frozen, the words echoing in my mind. Break the cycle. The room was now alive with movement. Shadows flickered and danced around me. I stepped back toward the doorway I had entered, my mind racing. What had she meant? Was I really chosen? The whispers now escalated into a frenzy. "Come closer. Join us." A surge of adrenaline hit me. I turned and ran toward the exit, willing myself not to look back. I had to escape. I had to find a way to help her and those like her. But as I neared the door, I caught a glimpse in the reflection of the window a figure standing behind me, watching with intent. Someone's here, I thought, heart pounding furiously. I swung around to confront whatever was lurking in the shadows, bracing myself for what came next. I spun around, adrenaline flooding my system. The figure I saw in the reflection was gone, but I could still feel its presence. Panic clawed at my throat. Had it been a trick of the light? Or something worse? I took a cautious step away from the doorway, scanning the darkness. The whispers faded slightly, giving space to a new sound, a slow, deliberate creaking, as if someone was pacing just beyond the reach of the flickering light. My heart raced, beating a frantic tattoo in my chest. "Who's there?" I called out, my voice wavering. Silence descended, heavy and suffocating. Then, a soft giggle pierced the quiet, echoing off the walls. It was chillingly familiar, sending shivers down my spine. "Help us!" It was Madison's voice, but distorted, like a record spinning out of control. "You have to break the cycle." I grabbed my head, trying to block the sound, but it was relentless. I felt dizzy, the room tilting slightly as I struggled to maintain my grip on reality. "No. Madison!" I shouted, desperation forcing the words out. Suddenly, the air shifted, and I spotted movement at the far end of the room, shadows bending and warping as if something was forcing its way through. I stumbled backward, my instincts screaming at me to flee. Before I could react, a heavy thud echoed, shaking the ground beneath me. From behind the door, a dark figure emerged, its form shifting unsettlingly. I squinted to see if it was truly real or just a trick of my mind. "Join us," it hissed, its voice dripping with malice. The shadows around it twisted, as if eager to envelop me. "Stay back!" I screamed, my voice barely a whisper against the rising cacophony. I turned again, focused on the exit. The door behind me seemed to grow smaller, more distant, as if the room itself was conspiring to keep me trapped. "Only you can save them," the figure hissed, moving closer. "Only you can break the cycle." That word again, cycle. What did that mean? I didn't have time to ponder. My feet were moving before I could think about it. I raced toward the door, my breath coming in quick gasps. I reached for the doorknob, but it was cold and oddly slick. I hesitated, shoulders tense, listening. The soft whispers returned, chanting my name, luring me away from the threshold. "Help us!" they pleaded, echoing through the gloom. With a surge of determination, I wrenched the door open. The gust of cool air hit me like a slap across the face, re-energizing me. I felt a presence at my back, an invisible force trying to pull me back into the shadowy chamber. A swift glance told me the figure had closed in, its face now unmistakably twisted into a grotesque smile. I stepped through the doorway, heart pounding wildly. Just as I thought I was free, a hand shot out and grasped my wrist, a cold grip that sent chills up my spine. I felt the tug of desperation. "Don't leave us!" it shrieked, the sound clawing at my sanity. I yanked my arm free and bolted down the corridor, the chilling whispers following. This wasn't over. The darkness still clung to me, and I needed answers. What had I stumbled into? What cycle was Madison talking about? Then everything went dark. I stumbled, disoriented, losing my footing. I couldn't see anything. It felt like the shadows had swallowed me whole. I halted, my heart thudding against my ribs as I tried to regain my balance. The darkness was suffocating, wrapping around me like a thick blanket. I couldn't tell where I was. Panic flared again. Madison, are you there? I called out, though my voice quivered with uncertainty. Silence answered me, thick and heavy. I reached out, my hands brushing against the cool, hard wall. I felt my way along, moving cautiously, straining to hear anything beyond my own ragged breaths. There was a knot in my stomach, a sense that something was watching me from the shadows. Then, a flicker of light cut through the darkness, illuminating a narrow path ahead. I squinted against the sudden brightness, feeling drawn to it. What if it meant escape? Or was it a trap? Ignoring the warning bells in my head, I hurried toward the light. As I stepped closer, the whispers returned, snaking through the air. They wrapped around me, begging for attention, pulling my thoughts apart. Help us, they were Madison's words again, looping endlessly. It felt wrong. Why was she calling for help? Who, or what, was I meant to save? The light flared, revealing a small room at the end of the corridor, its walls lined with strange symbols. They pulsated in rhythm with the whispers. The air was charged with something: fear, desperation, and an undeniable sense of urgency. Madison! I shouted again, hoping she could hear me through the chaos. Then I spotted something on the floor, a small, cracked mirror, its surface smeared with dust. The image it reflected was distorted, but I could make out a figure behind me. I spun around, searching for anyone. My breath caught. No one was there. But the mirror, something clicked in my mind. I knelt, wiping dirt away with my sleeve. The surface cleared enough to show distant images, flashes of a younger me, Madison, and other faces I didn't recognize. They looked frightened, trapped. What was this? I leaned in closer, feeling a pull from the mirror, as if it was calling to me. The whispers turned frantic, blending into a chaotic chorus. Break it! They cried in unison. Break the cycle! I gasped as the air around me shifted. Suddenly, the temperature dropped, and a figure materialized behind me again, this time more defined. Its eyes glowed, dark pools filled with anguish. Don't listen to them, it said, voice low like gravel. They're trying to lure you in. I started backing away, but my feet felt rooted to the ground. Who are you? I managed to stammer, fear coiling tightly in my gut. I'm someone who escaped, it replied, stepping closer. But the cycle still feeds on despair. You must make a choice. A choice. I had no idea what it would mean. As the figure moved closer, the room warped around me. Shadows crept off the walls, eager to reclaim control. I glanced at the mirror one last time. That's when I saw it, another face behind mine. A reflection of myself, but older, wearied, swallowed by darkness. The figure reached out, its fingers brushing my arm. Choose wisely, it whispered, and then everything faded. Desperation surged through me. I was running out of time, and I had no idea what to do next. I could feel the ground slipping beneath me. I stumbled backward, the air swirling with a dark energy that felt alive. I could still hear that figure's voice echoing, warning me to choose wisely. What choice? The only clear path was the light ahead, but now it seemed less inviting. I took a step toward it, hesitating as shadows writhed at the edges of the room. They coiled like tendrils of smoke, hungry for any pieces of hope I might cling to. The whispers had gone silent, replaced by a rhythmic thumping that matched the pulse of my heart. Suddenly, the mirror cracked even more beneath my fingers. A shiver raced down my spine as the fractures spread like veins through glass. I instinctively jerked my hand away, horrified at the thought of touching it again. The reflection shifted, showing glimpses of my past arguments, tears, moments I wished I could forget. They screamed in silence, their pain piercing through the fragments. Something in me snapped. Desperation clawed at my insides. I turned my back to the mirror, forcing myself to face the light again. Moving forward felt like stepping into a bright unknown, but what choice did I have? As I hurried down the corridor, I felt the air thickening around me, growing heavier with each step. The light glimmering ahead pulsated, filling my vision with hope yet forcing me to recall the figure's warning. I had to resist the despair. Then everything changed. Just as I reached the threshold of the small room, the temperature plunged, and a chill swept through me. I stepped into the light, and it enveloped me, dazzling and warm. For a moment, I was weightless. That blissful feeling shattered when a figure loomed just beyond the edges of the brightness. It was the same one I had seen before, but now it looked different. More haunting, its eyes seemed lifeless, like dark pits devoid of hope. "Foolish girl," it rasped, a grin that twisted into something grotesque. "The light is a lie. You'll never escape." The shadows surged forward, pulling at my heels. I gasped, scrambling back, but the edge of the glowing path had diminished. The room seemed to pull away from me, like I was losing the ground beneath my feet all over again. "Madison!" I screamed, but my voice was drowned out by a roar of wind that whipped around me. I could barely breathe, the reality of my surroundings twisted, blending into a chaotic blur of light and dark. I spun around, heart thrumming in my ears. My earlier resolve faltered. Where was she? Was she lost here too? Would I join her in despair? I needed to decide. I couldn't stay stuck in this cycle of fear. "Choose." The figure shouted, its voice echoing like thunder. "Will you break free or be bound by the chains of despair?" I clenched my fists, feeling the weight of two paths before me. I was terrified, but there was no other way. I wouldn't let fear dictate my choices anymore. Then I saw it behind the figure, another crack appeared in the wall, revealing something, a glimmer of an exit. Could I trust it? I had to move. With one final push, I bolted toward the exit, leaving everything behind. The shadows howled behind me as I reached for the glimmer, not knowing what awaited on the other side. Then I plunged into darkness again. I gasped, my lungs burning as I fell into an endless void. The air rushed past me, cold and sharp, but then suddenly silence. I landed on something solid, the ground cool beneath my feet. Cautiously, I opened my eyes. The darkness began to recede, revealing a familiar sight. I was back in the hospital, standing in the middle of the empty lobby. The fluorescent lights hummed gently, casting a sterile glow on the familiar surroundings. My heart raced. Had I really escaped? Was it over? I looked around, relief flooding through me as I took a step forward. The walls were the same dull white, the air still smelled of antiseptic, yet everything felt different. The shadows that had shrouded my night were gone, and a strange emptiness filled the space where I had felt so trapped. It was as if the very essence of the hospital had exhaled, allowing the light to seep back in. I felt a weight lift from my chest, but a nagging unease remained. What about Madison? What about the others? The questions swirled through my mind like a kettle whistling unknowingly to the fire beneath it. I stepped toward the nurse's station, almost instinctively, my hand reaching for the familiar counter. The night shift crew had always been my anchor, but as I glanced around, I saw the station was still empty. A window hung slightly ajar, letting in a faint breeze that whispered of distant stories. Yet, the silence of the vast halls echoed my thoughts, too quiet, too still. A rustle caught my attention, breaking the isolated atmosphere. I turned to find the old journal lying on a chair, almost inviting me. My heart sank as I approached, remembering the tales of missing patients and the chilling secrets hidden within its pages. I picked it up, flipping through the worn sheets. My hands brushed against old notes, ink smudged and faded. Then I noticed something new scribbled in the margins. The names of patients I recognized, Clara, Madison, and more. Beneath them, a series of dates scrolled down the page, a timeline of disappearances that sent chills racing down my spine. A cycle inscribed in ink, hauntingly persistent. My breath hitched on the realization, it had never truly ended. But then, in the quiet, I felt something again, a flicker at the edge of my perception. Was it a shadow? I turned quickly, the hairs on my neck standing up. Nothing was there, but something told me I wasn't alone. I felt eyes watching me from some untouchable realm beyond the walls of the hospital. "Help us," the familiar whisper pierced through the air, sending icy fingers crawling down my spine. I turned, searching for the source, but saw only the serene lobby, littered with chairs and waiting areas that felt devoid of life. "Madison?" I called, my voice shaky. The stillness responded with a deafening silence. A sense of dread washed over me as I pieced together the fragments of my experience. Clara's urgency echoed in my mind. "They're watching, only you can break the cycle." I knew I couldn't leave. I had to find a way to break this cycle, for Clara, for Madison, for anyone lost within the hospital's relentless grasp. But how? A cold draft swept through the lobby, rustling papers on the nurse's station. I held the journal closer to my chest, recalling the twisted paths I had followed just moments ago. I had glimpsed the truth: the cycle was not just about me, it was about them. It would continue until someone was brave enough to unearth the horrors buried beneath the surface. Steeling my resolve, I turned back, my eyes scanning for the familiar steps toward a deeper darkness. The whispers beckoned me once more. I was compelled to seek those lost souls, to confront whatever held them captive. As I stepped toward the flickering lights of the hallway, questions lingered heavy in my thoughts. Would I find the answers? Would the shadows still linger, waiting for their next victim? But one thing was clear: whatever lay ahead, I wouldn't face it alone. I would find a way to bring them back, to uncover the truth and confront the entity that fed on despair. And as I took that first step down the empty corridor, I felt the weight of their stories surround me. I was ready now, I wouldn't turn back. I couldn't.